Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Central Virginia Fishing Report with Ethan Martin at TaleTellers Fly Shop. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing great today. How you doing?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble, and as always, also, I took a quick look at the weather, and I mean, you guys have got glorious fishing weather if you wear sunscreen in Central Virginia for the next week to 10 days.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, to be honest with you. A lot of good stuff that it brings, and like one of the big things that we were just talking about is with smallmouth spawn. The past couple of years, we've had these just torrential rain events week after week. So it fingers crossed. Looks like we're probably actually going to get a decent number of fish this year. If they, as long as there's not something in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks pretty clear, and it's been pretty dry. So maybe we'll kind of hang on. It's been kind of a weird spring. I mean, it's just been cooler. It's been cooler and windier than normal. So, we've got our fingers crossed for smallmouth. I think we also were talking, you started to see evidence that they're spawning now.
Yeah, past couple of times we've been out in a couple buckets, we've seen either seen fish on beds or, if you caught a male and then he relieved some substance on you. So I've kind of been leaving them to do their thing. Everybody has different opinions on that, but that's just what I've been doing. And then there's other fish this time of year, and kind of to the one of the points you said, we're kind of on always on a balance, and so we have had less rain certainly than normal, or at least the past couple of years. So it's great for the smallmouth, but the problem is if that maintains, then some of our small mountain streams will start getting low, which is definitely abnormal for this early. But they're still fine, and actually they've been fishing really well. But if we don't get rain, if now all of a sudden we have some sort of drought or something like that, then that'll affect us, especially as we get towards later in summer. But in terms of the actual fishing conditions, this week, and then looking forward to the next week and a half, hatches have been really good on the brook trout streams. Kind of nice this time of year because you can go out and throw whatever confidence flies you have. I've talked plenty of times about my love for giant yellow bushy dry flies, and those have been working real well. And nymphs still been working. And then in terms of people come in the shop and they're like, well, what's hatching? And it's kind of funny because on our brook trout streams, it's not as important, what specifically is hatching, as much as it is just bring 3 different profiles of flies and just kind of cycle through them. But a lot of stuff right now is hatching, from beetles and ants, which are pretty much, that's also going to be a staple food throughout the summer. But then you got yellow sallies and sulfurs and still some remnant March browns. And so, yeah, there's a lot of options for the brook trout. In terms of the smallmouth, right? The last time I went out for them was the first, real noticeable day that we started catching a lot of fish closer towards the banks, as well. And they were pretty much all chasing bait fish. So that's one of the things that, if you're going out for smallmouth, especially as the spawn will kind of close up, it's interesting because, from everything that I've read, it seems that about 25-ish% of the smallmouth are actually spawning, which, leaves, in theory, 75% that aren't spawning, that you could still target and still fish for. For me, with smallmouth, I don't really fish from on the beds just because we've had such hard years of the spawn and just try. And typically, it's kind of one of those things. It's the bigger the fish is, they're very easy to target and to catch, which is what guys do with largemouth. Which, in my opinion, so be it with largemouth because they spawn like crazy. But yeah, it's typically the bigger smallmouth that are going to be the ones that have successful nests. So I just kind of stray away from those areas, and they've definitely been over wood, over different types of structure, and then, like I said, eating bait fish. So it's noticeably better than what it was, and I think that's just primarily due to the time of year and the fact that the water's finally heating up, and hopefully this spawn will stay, and we'll be into summertime conditions with a whole new class of fish that'll be, little tiny size of tadpoles, but they'll grow, hopefully.
Yeah, there you go. And how's your striper bite looking?
It's actually been decent. For people that don't know, striper come up out of the lakes in our area. So you get them coming up out of the bay, so they'll come up the James, not typically as far as Lynchburg, which would be awesome, but because that's, like literally one block down from us. So they're not coming up that far, but they come up into the James, and then we've got a lot of larger reservoirs, like Bugs Island, the Fountain Lake. They'll run up those as well, and they're either, trying to spawn themselves, or they're chasing shad and eating shad in the backs of the coves that are spawning right now. So it was weird, one of the rivers that we fish a lot for striper, which is the Stanton. That one is one of those rivers that usually the past couple years it just blows out, and that river is a ditch. So trying to fish it when it's blown out is very cool. So we kind of thought that the fish had left really early this year compared to the past years, because they rose flows and then they dropped them. And especially like in our rivers, the striper don't like it when those flows get dropped really quickly, because that river is all set up behind a dam, kind of like a tailwater-ish scenario. And so, when the rivers get low, what that does is essentially the fish don't like that, because they're more exposed, and so they'll leave, or they'll go back to the lake. So we thought that was happening, and it pretty much was. Flows, and then so they're still around. Most of them are spawned up, so definitely it's tail end of all this stuff. But they're still around, and then a similar thing is going to be bait fish imitations. The two most popular flies are you're going to need is a clouser or half and half. That's literally the two flies you need for those dudes. Change up colors and just keep going until you whack them. And that's a lot of fun. There are certain sections, if you learn your way around, you can even wade fish for some of them. Not so much on the Stanton as like the James or a couple other little tributary streams that they go up. But yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing tomorrow. So ask me tomorrow,
Yeah, absolutely. And also with the longer days and all of this ample sunlight, it's just going to make the panfish bite shallow in the evenings just better.
Oh,
better,
yeah.
Right. So popping bugs and all that kind of good stuff.
It's a great time of year for bluegill. And that's the thing I think people kind of forget about. And let me back up. I don't think people really forget about it. I think there are definitely people that I see in the shop all the time that they love their panfish and they go out this time of year with some poppers and they smoke some fish. And so it is funny because, it's one of those hidden things that most people love. It's like playing Legos, I've got kids, so but it's like everybody kind of enjoys playing with Legos. And, when you've got like a kid around with a Lego set, you're always like, oh yeah, let me come and build a cool house with you. And bluegill are the same way, because it's like, oh, there's a pond in my backyard that has bluegill. Okay, let me just go down here for an evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've been talking to, Matt Riley too, and crappie are another one, but you generally have to fish for them with like some type of jig or mop fly.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been catching those out of the lakes too, because close to us, we've got 3, we call them county lakes, but in Amherst County that I fish those a lot, and then Smith Mountain Lake as well. And the crappie are a lot of fun. Put on we've been catching them on clousers, but like a woolly bugger, or you can just straight up tie like crappie jigs and cast them. And they're a lot of fun. You can get into some thick numbers.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was telling Matt the last time I recorded with him, if you find one, you're going to find 50 or 100.
Yep. Yeah, we were watching a fish finder the other day, and there was one hole where we knew that there are usually a striper on one of the lakes, or Smith Mountain Lake. And so we just kept going over it, and the fish finder, we were marking fish down at the bottom, and I was like, those aren't striper, those are crappie. So we just downsized fly, and then we had a pretty fun time catching all sorts of decent sized crappie. So it's one of those things, Virginia is blessed with a lot of variety. And if you're not going to go out there and be, one trick pony, like if all you want to do is fish for trout, that's a lot of fun. And I enjoy fishing for trout, obviously. But there's a lot of other fish species that you can catch on the fly rod, and it's fun, to learn different things. And I think that doing those makes you a better all around angler. So the next time that you're out fishing for trout, or maybe in a different environment, you can kind of take tricks that you might have learned from one style of fishing and mesh it into a new style. And essentially you can become a more effective angler, because if all you ever do is go to the same river, fish the same hole, fish the same fly, catch the same fish, well, one day when that river changes, you're not going to be able to catch fish anymore. One high water event that puts a tree where your hole is, and all of a sudden you're going to be a sad person. So you got to learn, if you want to stay in the game. And I think that's one of the benefits that we have here in Central Virginia. All this stuff is, if you've got an hour drive, you can get and fish a lot of different places.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us or send them to us our Facebook or Instagram page. If we use your question, I'll send you some Articulate Fly swag, and we will enter you into a drawing for something cool from the shop at the end of the season. And Ethan, before I let you hop and go back to playing with your drone, why don't you let folks know where the shop's located and hours and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, so we're located in downtown Lynchburg. We're on Commerce Street. We're open 6 days a week, so the only day that we're not open is Sunday. And if you can't make it to downtown, then pretty much everything that we have is online as well. If it's not in stock or something like that, you can always just shoot us a message on Instagram or email us or call us. And I can try and, get that sorted with you. And yeah, it's a good time to get out and to go fish. And I would definitely recommend it before, full on summer comes and hits and goes, because it's kind of sad thinking, spring is on its way out now.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus you have a little bit of a chance to get out before school's out too.
Yes, that's a big one.
Absolutely. Well, listen, folks, you should take Ethan's advice and get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ethan.
Tight lines.